Wednesday? That's a big 8,
Sorry,
people.
guys.
Yeah!
Let's slap.
What? What's wrong with you? You're an idiot.
What's going on YouTube? I'm BB Funerology, and this is my top 10 moments of Big Brother 7 All-Stars. Obviously spoilers ahead, don't say I didn't warn you. And if you like this video, consider hitting that subscribe button because I'm making a video just like it for every Big Brother season. And before we dive in, let's talk about the OG All-Stars. This season delivered. The Season 6 Alliance may have dominated the competitions, aka Janelle dominated the competitions, but unlike Big Brother 22, it didn't really matter that she won so much, because there were so many competent players who were able to work around it. Some of the best of all time, too. Chilltown, Danielle Reyes, Janelle, James, hell, even Chicken George, who had never really played this format before, was a pleasant surprise with his determination. That being said, let's dive into the top 10. Number 10. This one is actually before anyone even enters the house. So the season was kind of cool because America got to vote people in. From the women, America chose Janelle, Erika, Nokomis, and Diane. And from the men, America chose Howie, James, Kaser, and Jace. I really like this, and I wouldn't have minded if Big Brother 22 had done something like this. Sorry for the Big Brother 22 comparisons in advance, but I can't help with such a direct comparison point season. Then after that, the producers chose 6 people to enter the house. So they chose Dr. Will, Danielle, Marcellus, Allison, Mike Boogie, and Chicken George. I really like the way they did this. I don't think it's perfect, but it was pretty great. I love that they gave the fans a say in things. Although it did seem that the fans had an overwhelmingly sense of recency bias, so I like that the producers kind of fixed this issue by weighting their picks in the earlier seasons. Number 9. So it's week 3. James is the HOH. He puts up George and Dr. Will with George as the target, which is crazy. Will is not only the only winner in the house, but he's basically the greatest of all time at this point. And George is being targeted basically because, to quote the great Tony Vlachos, he's a hyena among a bunch of lions. So the veto competition comes around, and it's a how bad do you want it type of competition. So it's basically everyone in the house versus George, so this should be easy, right? Well, the competition comes, it's whoever takes the most punishments wins the veto. First they make them eat slop. Will and Boogie can't do that, which, come on, are we surprised about that? A few more punishments occur. Then they come out with a tricky one. They say, anyone who accepts this punishment can't play in the veto competition next week. And as much as James and Jace were willing to take punishments to make George lose, they both bowed out because they weren't willing to risk that next week. Then they make them shave their heads, and George pleads to Kaser to just let him have it, but Kaser doesn't waver there. So they've done all the punishments, and it comes down to a tiebreaker. There are only 60 days left, and the tiebreaker is, how many consecutive days are you willing to be on slop to win this competition? Kaser says 15, but Chicken George says all 60 days. And I love this competition so much. Whoever wants to stay in the most has a huge leg up on everyone else. Also, I love Chicken George after this, because before this, he was just a goofy character who dressed up and had fun. But this showed his burning passion to stay in the house. Casting. Cast this guy more often. I don't mean specifically Chicken George. I want 16 people with this passion every season. No one cares if you're hot and have a lot of followers on Instagram. We want people who play the game and play it as hard as they can. Number 8. So right after that competition, George has the veto, and James needs to make a replacement nominee. But then come to the veto ceremony, and one of the biggest moments of Big Brother history starts to unfold.
Season 2, the season that I won, there was a lot of people I hated, and it was easy for me to motivate and find individuals that I disliked, and it gave me power. Then I thought, so why haven't I had that motivation? And I thought it was because I really liked everyone here. But then I realized it was the opposite of that. I can't find an individual to hate because I hate you all.
Dr. Will. This guy straight up just told everyone he hates them all. He had the audacity to tell them to their faces while knowing he's still on the block that he hates them all. This guy's an absolute madman. And later, they evict Jace unanimously. Insane stuff here. He doesn't even get a single vote against him. I don't think anyone but Dr. Will would be able to pull off this level of reverse psychology and not have it immediately blow up in their face. And if you thought this moment was over, just wait, because George's speech was amazing too.
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of an opposite approach is what the doctor says. I am honored to be here with all of you. And I thought that was one of the most greatest things when I got chosen to be. And I want to play the game with everything that I've got, with every heart and soul, with everything that I've got to play the game. Because you know what? We've been given a second chance. Do you realize that? We have a second chance to repeat what we did one time over. How many people get that chance in their lives? And I'm pleased to be here and honored.
The speech was amazing. It brought a tear to my eye. And I'm probably beating a dead horse here, but cast more people like this. I'm begging you. Number 7. So one of the live HOH competitions happens. It's a trivia competition where if everyone gets the question right, then the slowest person to answer is eliminated each round. And you can tell something is off. At one point, Mike Boogie's light doesn't light up. Then Howie is the slowest, but you can tell he thought he hit the button. Eventually, Erika wins HOH. But then fast forward into the next episode, Howie is still really pissed about the situation, and understandably so. They roll the tapes showing he did hit the button. Then Allison Grodner comes onto the loudspeaker, and you know something serious is going to happen when she shows up.
After going over the technology in the game and the tapes, we have come to the conclusion that there were a number of technical issues. We need to play the head of household competition again.
Wow.
Wow.
So they end up redoing the competition, this time with no buzzers to remove the issue. Rest in peace to the poor intern that set up that live competition. You can only imagine what happened to them. And then Janelle ends up winning this time, which is a pretty opposite result of Erika being HOH. And this is the first time in Big Brother history where they had to redo a competition, which is insane. Number 6. So it's a double eviction. George put Erika and James on the block, but James won veto, so obviously James is going to veto himself. So George has to make a replacement nomination, and everyone in the house is saying Janelle should be the replacement, and they'll just send her out. But George doesn't want to do this. He actually wants to align with Janelle and Howie instead. And then Will, he throws a curveball into the equation by telling George to put him up as a pawn, and they'll send Erika home. So George plans on taking Will up on his offer. Boogie gets wind of this, but he doesn't realize that Will was the one who pitched this. So they're all locked in a room together while they have to wait for the veto ceremony to start. And Mike Boogie does a last-minute Hail Mary to save Will because he thinks Will's in real trouble.
There is a power in the house. There is speculation who has it. I'm not confirming or denying who would have the power. Julie said this person will have the power to change the face of this game forever.
Yeah, Boogie had the coup d'etat, which sounds like a pretty big deal, but he never ended up using it, so it was kind of a flop. And then right at the last second, George asks Erika and Danielle, what about Howie?
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. George, they saved it. They saved it.
So George puts up Howie, but then Boogie and Will tell Howie he's staying, and Howie's blindsided, and his exit is glorious.
Thanks for the sellout, buddy.
Tight. Class move. Another class act leaves the Big Brother house.
Yeah. Right to my face. Lie to me, you little punk.
Howie, get to Steppin. Get to Steppin,
what are you
Howie.
gonna do?
Get to Steppin. I love this line so much, but I loved it even more when Ian says it to Boogie when he's evicted in Big Brother 14.
Not cool, buddy. Not cool.
Amazing callback. 7 years in the making, Ian. Number 5. This one's about the first ever OTEV competition. But this competition is a Big Brother staple. We see it every single mainline Big Brother US season after this one, with the exception of Big Brother 10. But the goal of this competition is to find the voodoo doll with the correct person's name to the question OTEV asks them, and the last one back each round is eliminated. Or, as the Big Brother producers force-fed this line to Janelle in the diary room,
it's kind of like musical chairs. There's never going to be enough room for everyone. One person is always going to get eliminated.
But at this point, it's the world against Janelle, at least in appearances. Will and Boogie, they're actually secretly trying to get Janelle to win. But the best part is when Janelle and James both go for the same doll and they get in a little physical altercation. And James is playing this up so much. He sounds like a soccer player when someone gets a little too close to them.
I am harm. It's a little harm, but it's, you know what, it's a harm. Intentionally removing the doll from my hand is physically described as assault in the outside world.
There was a little bit of controversy during the game. See, it's James' contention that he and Janelle came to a doll at the exact same time, and Janelle kicked him and bit him and punched him in the face and pulled one of his eyes out, and then she went and got some pliers and yanked out one of his wisdom teeth. The way I saw it, she just whooped his ass.
Now, as funny as all this was, I can't hate on James for trying this. I mean, his life was on the line if Janelle won, so I can't hate on him for trying to make this play and trying to get production to do something about it, but come on, James. This is what you signed up for. Number 4. It's the final 6. Erika's the HOH. She nominated Janelle, and Janelle won Veto. Now Erika needs a replacement nominee. She should be putting up someone from Chilltown. Erika suggests maybe putting up Dr. Will to Mike, and Mike completely deflects this and says no, it has to be Danielle. And he pushes for Danielle. Then Erika at one point lets Danielle know she might go up. Danielle takes it in stride, but then later blows up at Erika. I think at this point there was still a lane she could have taken to stay safe this week, but unfortunately she went the opposite direction and blew up at Erika, basically sealing her own fate. Then later, Will and Erika are talking in the HOH room. Will again is pushing for Danielle to go up, and then Danielle comes up and tries to talk to Erika. She keeps ringing and ringing the doorbell, and Will says don't answer it, and they don't. And then Danielle goes up here.
Bring.
Hello.
Hey, Boogie.
What up, man?
Do you remember a few weeks back when I got my showmance to put up her very best friend, Marcellus, and then we evicted him?
Yeah.
Could I bother you to do that this week with your showmance? Just get her to put up her best friend, Danielle?
Sure, no problem.
Cool.
And for the record, I don't know how I made it this far into a Big Brother 7 video without mentioning the Chilltown phone calls, but these are amazing. This is truly a staple of Big Brother's history, and I loved each and every single one of them. Number 3. So Chilltown realizes all 3 of the remaining people in the house think they're secretly working with Will and Boogie, and they start getting real flashy.
We are Chilltown. We work quickly, we work secretly, we're ninjas.
The girls are in the back sleeping. It's a good time for this Chilltown meeting.
I am an honorary member of Chilltown.
No one knows that I'm with Chilltown.
Being that I'm a secret member of Chilltown.
This is how you make good TV. Future house guests, if you're sitting pretty, and I mean real pretty, maybe flex a little bit while you're at it. Number 2. So it's the final 4, and Boogie wins HOH, and then Janelle wins Veto, because of course, when doesn't she? So Janelle is quote unquote in Chilltown, so Erika is pretty much screwed, right? Well, Erika doesn't give up. She immediately after the competition goes to Janelle. She tells Janelle, you can't beat Will, which I think is true, and she points out if she sends Will to the jury house, the jury will love her for doing it, which is also probably true. Then she promises to take Janelle to the final 2 on her mother, and then Erika continues to stick to Janelle like white on rice. First of all, thank you, Erika. More of this, always. I hate when people go out without a fight, but eventually, I think what seals the deal is when Janelle asks if Erika's in Chilltown. They both realize they've been fed the same line. So, future house guests, remember when I said to be flashy? Maybe be a little careful and skeptical of that, actually. But then after more talking, they're super ready for some revenge after being somewhat puppet mastered the whole season long. Then live, Janelle makes her decision.
I really feel like this summer I've made a lot of mistakes in the house, and after tonight I'm done making mistakes. And for Marcellus and Howie, I vote to evict you, Will. Sorry.
Finally, Janelle. This is what we were waiting for all season long. I'm so glad she realized this before it was over. Number 1. So it's the final 3 HOH, and there's a volcano. And the basic premise is, whoever holds on to their key the longest wins. But Erika asks Julie,
both hands have to be on?
For now, yes.
That for now seems pretty ambiguous. Would be a shame if someone didn't really understand what you meant by that, Julie. Then Boogie with a showboating move.
You remember Richard Hatch?
Yes, I do.
They both have to take me to the finals.
What? I told you, Janelle.
Boogie claims they can't take each other, which I think has 2 different parts. One is to not strain himself and be weak for the second part of the HOH, which I think is smart because I don't think he could beat either of these girls. And the second part, I think, is to get in their heads to make them not want to take each other. Because let's be clear, in the parallel universe where Janelle won this HOH and took out both Chilltown members, she would have won 10 competitions, 11 if you count the final HOH as 2 comps, and taken out the 2 baddest players in the game. There's no way Erika gets the win in that scenario. But obviously that's not what happens. So I think it's more about Boogie not spending all night in an endurance comp he wouldn't win. But in the moment that Boogie drops, Janelle pulls one hand off her key and gets disqualified. So this endurance competition that's supposed to last all night lasts approximately 24 seconds if the live TV edit is to be trusted.
The ladies have a tough night ahead of them and things are about to erupt.
I feel for these set designers who poured their soul into this competition just for the cool special effects of the volcano to never be seen. And the rest is history because Mike wins part 2 and then part 3 and evicts Janelle and moves on to win the game. And as weird as all the news is for Mike Boogie in 2020 and the past few years, you gotta respect this man's Big Brother 7 game. Sure, he was basically Robin to Will's Batman, but as a sidekick, he did have some of his own game moves and basically played a near flawless season. So, that was my top 10 Big Brother 7 moments. Were there any moments you think I should have included, or anything on the live feeds that I missed? Let me know down in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe because I'm making a video just like it for every Big Brother season. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
I will give credit where credit is due. They spanked my ass, both cheeks, they're still red, and it still hurts.
Thank you.